Woo! What's going on, guys? So I'm coming at you guys today with another video. In today's video, it's a late video because Christmas just passed. Hopefully everybody had a good Christmas. Hopefully Santa Claus took care of everybody and everybody was safe. But our Detroit Lions played a football game on Christmas Eve, and Santa Claus was not good to them. This is the aftermath. The Detroit Lions get their asses blown out by the Carolina Panthers, going up to Carolina. 37-23. The Lions fall into 7-8. Still second in the NFC North with playoff hopes still alive, but they need a bunch of help. They need to win out. The Carolina Panthers going up to 6-9, second in the NFC South, still trying to chase the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Playoffs still alive. Second in the NFC South, like I said, man, they put 37 on the board. Playoffs still alive for both teams. Injuries, running back Jamal Williams for the Lions did get hurt with a lower body, but he did return. I believe it happened in the third quarter. Something, he had a leg injury going on. Got kind of like roughed. Got kind of roughed up, thrown to the sidelines, kind of thrown out of bounds. I think it was either J.C. Horn or C.J. Henderson. I'm not really too sure who it was, but it was a good tackle. It was a clean tackle. Just he got his leg kind of twisted up, but he did return. He's a tough kid, Jamal Williams. That's really all, man. We came out pretty clean in this game, even though the Detroit Lions were complaining about the surface being pretty much concrete, frozen concrete. We came out pretty much unscathed. But anyways, the Panthers, they lost a couple guys. They lost cornerback J.C. Horn with a wrist injury in the fourth. They did lose wide receiver Shi Smith. He's like their fourth guy. Special teams kind of guy. He had a foot and a head injury. Lost him in the third quarter as well. So both teams kind of came out relatively unscathed. They did lose J.C. Horn, though, in the fourth quarter. Now let's go with stats. We start off with the Detroit Lions. And there were some bad ones, man. Quarterback Jared Goff was 25 for 42, 59% completion percentage. He did throw for 355 yards and 3 touchdowns. Did have a fumble. That was credited to him, but it was probably Frank Ragnow's fault. We'll get on that too. And he was sacked a couple times as well, but he didn't throw any picks. Those numbers, I think, to me personally, are a little bit skewed. A little bit, misled. Per se, I guess. He didn't have a bad day, but I don't think Goff had a good day. He did make a couple of nice throws, but we will get on that too as well. And rushing, we were abysmal. Jared Goff was our leading rusher. Okay, 3 carries for 15 yards at 5 yards per carry. And after that, it was DeAndre Swift, who had 4 carries for 12 yards, 3 yards per carry. Jamal Williams had 7 carries for 11 yards at 1.6 yards per carry. We had 45 yards rushing as a whole team. Abysmal on the ground. Abysmal on the ground. Terrible. Couldn't get it going, man. Bullied. We're bullied left and right in this game, offensively and defensively. Receiving, wide receiver DJ Chark had 4 catches for 108 yards on 5 targets. He had a decent day. He's been playing well the last month of football. Wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown had 7 catches for 76 yards. His usual, if he's not getting over 100-something yards, he's usually hitting the 70 to 80-yard mark, and he's just being one of the most consistent guys on this football team. He had 13 targets, so they were trying to get him the ball, just couldn't get it to him a lot. Wide receiver Khalif Raymond had 1 catch for 56 yards on 1 target. It was a deep ball. It was a deep pass. It was probably, I personally think it was probably Goff's farthest throw this year. Raymond had to kind of wait for a little bit, though, but it was a good throw. I'm not even complaining about the throw. It was a big-time throw. Raymond got under it, and he adjusted a little bit, made the catch. It was a good throw and catch. But he's only targeted once. I'm not too sure what's going on there. But, yeah, he was targeted once. The wide receiver Josh Reynolds had 2 catches for 31 yards on 4 targets. Tight end James Mitchell, the rookie out of Virginia Tech, had 2 catches for 31 yards as well on a couple targets. He looked pretty good catching the football, too. He had a couple nice runs after the catches as well. They still need to get him more involved, but whatever. And then tight end Shane Zylstra, man, had a career day. 5 catches for 26 yards and 3 touchdowns on 6 targets. A couple of those were garbage time touchdowns, but we'll talk about it later on. But he did get in the end zone 3 times. Shane Zylstra was a stud at a small school named a few years back, Minnesota Vikings picked him up. You know the story on Shane Zylstra. He was a hell of a wide receiver in college. like a animal. Now he's a tight end in the NFL. I think they need to somehow find a way to get him more involved. And I'm not just saying that because he had 3 touchdowns. I've been talking about him for a bit now. I do like his style. I like him. He has that wide receiver mentality and a tight end wide receiver body. He's a tweener. He's what you call a tweener. Let me get rid of this garbage because I hate it, and you know the deal. But anyways, now defensively, we were awful defensively. Safety, Ifeatu Malafanu, didn't have a good game, but he had 8 tackles. Cornerback, Jeff Okudah, who was awful, we'll talk about it too, did have 6 tackles. Safety, Kirby Joseph had a bad day. The rookie, 6 tackles. Linebacker, Alex Anzalone, 5 tackles. Linebacker, Malcolm Rodriguez, a rookie, had 5 tackles. Didn't have a good day. Defensive tackle, Isaiah Buggs, had 6 tackles, but not a good day. D-line, John Kaminsky, had 6 tackles as well. This team gave up 570 yards on the ground. Total 570 yards. 320 yards against running the football. They were gashed. It was one of the worst defensive games I've ever seen. It's just, they made some late adjustments, but just wasn't in time. Just couldn't do it. Now, Panthers stats, quarterback Sam Darnold was 15 of 22 with 68% completion percentage, 250 yards and a touchdown. He did run for 1 as well, too. We'll talk about that. 0 picks, wasn't sacked once. Didn't even seem like he was pressured. Just an overall bad game by the defense, and he had a decent stat line. Nothing special though, but he did throw a touchdown, did run for 1. Rushing, Deonta Foreman. Their running back was 21 for 165 yards on 1 touchdown on 7.9 yards per carry. He was running all over them in huge chunks. Running back, Chuba Hubbard, the Canadian boy. What's up? 12 for 125 yards, 10.4 yards per carry. Quarterback Sam Darnold had 6 carries for 19 yards and a score as well, 3.2 yards per carry. And then running back, their third running back, Raheem Blackshear, 3 carries for 3 yards and a touchdown on 1 yard per carry. Just like overall offensive juggernaut running the football for the Carolina Panthers. Broke all kinds of records for that franchise as well, too. Receiving, wide receiver DJ Moore had 5 catches for 83 yards and a touchdown on 7 targets. He had a decent day, had a good day. Wide receiver Terrace Marshall Jr. had two catches for 55 yards on 3 targets, had a couple big-time catches. And then wide receiver Laviska Shenault, former high draft pick from the Jacksonville Jaguars, now a Carolina Panther, had 3 catches for 53 yards as well, 3 targets. So decent day through the air. Nothing special, but a decent day. They dominated on the ground, though. Defensively, linebacker Shaq Thompson had 6 tackles. Safety Jeremy Chin had 6. Cornerback J.C. Horn had a couple pass deflections, had 6 tackles as well. Did end up getting hurt. Linebacker Frankie Louvu had 5 tackles. Had a really nice tackle for loss, too. He was getting to the quarterback recently before this game. He didn't have any sacks. But he gets into the backfield. He's so fast. I kind of want to see what I don't even know what his contract is for Carolina. I don't even know. I'm kind of curious, and I'd like to kind of check that out to see if that kid's available anytime soon, because he's a hell of a linebacker, man. And the defensive end, Yaturim Gross-Matos had 5 tackles and a fumble recovery. That was on when the Lions were driving. Then it was a botch snap between Ragnow and Jared Goff. It looked like it was on Ragnow. Ragnow did take the blame for that, but the fumble went to Jared Goff. But Ragnow took the blame for that. It looked like he didn't get the ball all the way up and didn't turn the ball enough. The defensive end, Brian Burns, he had 2 tackles and 2 sacks as well. He was giving Taylor Decker some fits, and he got those 2 sacks. Now let's talk Lions defense versus the Panthers offense. My God, that was abysmal. Now, you have your typical Lions fans out here screaming for Aaron Glenn's name again. Screaming for his head. Hashtag fire Aaron Glenn. Hashtag fire Jeff Okudah. Hashtag fire that whole D-line. Hashtag Aiden Hutchinson's a bust. Hashtag this and that. Typical SOL fan base. They come out of the woodwork when a bad game happens, and we all do it. I'm not saying I don't do it as well, but we all do it, and I think it's a little bit unjustified though. With this fire everybody, and this is typical SOL loss. I'm going to make a video about it. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but I'm going to make a video about this fan base, man, because they drive me insane. They just drive me nuts. There's some negative in this game. Don't get me wrong. There was not a lot of positives in this game whatsoever, if there is any. But this fan base they come out of the woodwork. We couldn't stop the run, sure. We couldn't stop the run at all. 320 yards against, huge chunk plays. D'Onta Foreman, Chuba Hubbard, people like, who are those guys? If you look at the year, D'Onta Foreman's having a pretty decent year. He's not a superstar running back or anything, but he's put over 100+ yards on more than one occasion, more than twice, more than 3 times. He's a pretty good running back. He's a load. He's got some wiggle to him. He's got speed to him as well. So he had a huge day, humongous day. Glenn made some late adjustments, not in time. We'd put 7 in the box, still couldn't catch, still couldn't stop the run. 8 in a box, maybe a few times. You got to be careful putting 8 in a box, because then you're leaving your secondary pretty exposed out there. You got to have some safety help or some extra corner help. But we weren't stopping the run, and we were just bullied. We were bullied all day, offensively and defensively, especially our D-line. Hutchinson didn't have a good day. Nobody had a good day. Nobody had a good day on that defense. Missed tackles. Jeff Okudah. Don't even know what Jeff Okudah... I am no conspiracy theorist. I'm not the type of guy that thinks the NFL is rigged and say, oh my God, they're trying to set it up for the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions. Last game of the year for either team wins, they're in. I don't think they're trying to set that up. And I'm not trying to say Okudah threw a football game, but he looked terrible. I don't even know what he was even benched in the second half. Couldn't play the run well. Gave up a really big completion to, I believe it was Terrace Marshall or more. I forget who it was. He gave up a really big completion. He was benched, and then he ended up getting only limited snaps after that. So but he had some of his attempts of trying to catch on run support were abysmal. He was jumping at people's ankles. I don't know what he was doing. It was like he was hesitating, and then he would try to jump at someone's ankles. It was really weird to watch. It was like, usually that's what his bread and butter is. He's a great run supporter for a corner. That's what his strength is. He plays the run well. He still needs to work a lot on his pass coverage, and he has gotten better, I think, as a player. It didn't happen that Saturday on Christmas Eve, but his run support was terrible. Some of those 2 missed tackles that he had that were jumping at guys' pinky toes, man. I don't even know what he was even trying to do. It was awful. They getting blocked out of plays. He just had an awful day. He had an awful day, man. So the defense got gashed. They were embarrassed. I'm not calling for anybody's head here. I'm not calling for Aaron Glenn. Where was everybody during those 6 wins when we were playing way better football? But we had a bad day. We had an awful day on defense all around. No pressures really on Sam Darnold. Couldn't stop the run anytime. Couldn't stop the pass. It was just a bad overall day. And they need to straighten that shit up. I look at that game and I'm like, you look through a whole season, 16, 17 week season, whatever we have now, 17 weeks. Oh, it's 18 weeks, but 17 games. And you're like, you try to figure out what we need in the draft. I know what we need in this draft. We need a stud defensive tackle. We need another linebacker for sure within those 3 picks. We got 2 first-round picks. We're going to have an early second again. So it's like we have a bunch of picks in the top 70 or whatever, or top 90. I think we have 5 or something like that in the top 90. So it's like, you better figure it out defensively. You need some stud linebackers and some stud defensive tackles. I like what Bugs is doing all year. I do. I like Aleem McNeil, but they need better. They need better, man. And you need guys that can play the run on defense, because we got gashed. So it was a bad overall day for the defense, man. Now let's talk this Lions offense, man. they couldn't run the ball at all. You know, just like we couldn't stop the ball, we couldn't run the ball. You're not going to win football games getting 45 yards rushing or 320 yards against, either or. So Goff was kind of by himself there. You know, he was like, they were asking Goff to be pretty much the hero. Can't run the ball. You know, your next thing is, okay, man, your quarterback's going to have to step up and be the guy with the wide receivers and the tight end mix. Let's go. We can't run the football. So, and I don't think Goff's built that way. I don't think Goff's built that way. And I know people are going to come at me and say, hey, man, you're picking on Goff. I'm not. Okay? I'm not putting this game on Jared Goff. But they had the big fumble. It was Ragnow's fault. I'm good with that. Then they went into a shell. The whole offense went into a shell. Couldn't run the ball. Getting some garbage time yards. Didn't get on the board. So, you know, they tied it up at 7-7. They tied it up at 7-7. Then they went in that shell after the fumble. Then Carolina goes on this run of scores. It was like 31-7 before the time we scored another point. So those, to me, we scored a touchdown, another Shane Gilstra touchdown late in the third. Okay? Then Carolina scored a field goal or a touchdown, something like that. We score another late. Actually, they scored another touchdown and a field goal. Then we scored another late touchdown in the fourth. So I'm not saying Goff had a horrific day, because if you look at it, man, through a fantasy perspective, they had a great day. But unfortunately, we don't look at it through a fantasy perspective. It's not fantasy football that we're looking at. Yeah, we all play it, but this wasn't a fantasy football moment. You know, they went into a shell, the whole offense. Couldn't run, couldn't get the ball in the end zone. Goff made a couple nice throws, a couple deep throws that I was really shocked that he did, and he's starting to prove that he can get the ball downfield a little bit. That's impressive. But the whole offense went into a shell. Then they scored some garbage time touchdowns at the end. Made Goff's stat line look like he had a great, fantastic game, where he didn't. He didn't have a great game. Just because he threw for 355 yards and 3 touchdowns in a losing cause doesn't mean it was great. I'd take, just like he did in New York. He had 165 yards, a score. They ran the ball phenomenally, played defense. I'll take that stat line over him throwing for a bunch of total yards and a bunch of meaningless touchdowns. But I'm not putting it on him. I'm just saying, those numbers, his 355, 3 touchdowns, are a little bit misled. He didn't have a great day. Carolina backed off in that third quarter. They backed off in that third quarter. They let everything in. They let everything be completed underneath. They pretty much shut down that offense, especially in the run game. The run game is the problem. The run game and the defense were the main problem of this football game. That's what it was. You know, but we got to be better. We got to be better scoring early and often. You know, we had this problem here, man, with number 9. You know what I mean? You come out, throw a touchdown early, go into a shell. Then we couldn't run the ball. We couldn't pass the ball good. We couldn't get the ball in the end zone. Got a couple big time plays, but nothing in the end zone. And then we kind of go on these late runs where we'd score a couple touchdowns. You know, we can't have that, man. We had that with number 9. We had that with Matthew Stafford, man. I don't want to see that with Jared Goff. I've seen this song and dance before. Now, it's only one game, man. It's only one game. It's one loss. But we need to be better offensively. We need to be better offensively, man. We need to get into the end zone early and often. But this run game, man, was bad on this day. It was horrible. You can't have DeAndre Swift rushing for 12 yards. You can't have Jared Goff as your leading rusher. Come on. Jamal Williams at 11 yards. What's going on? That's awful. Awful. So figure it out, man. You know, and then after the game, the handshake between Dan Campbell and Stephen Wilkes, the interim head coach over there in Carolina, Campbell gives him the old, people were trying to compare it to the Harbaugh and Schwartz handshake but I don't think there was any bad blood between Campbell and Wilkes. I don't think there is. Campbell just rolls right up to him and goes, "That was a complete ass kicking. Good job." Gave him the hard handshake and the slap on the back. Wilkes just kept walking. They got their asses kicked. They got their asses kicked offensively and defensively. We scored a couple late touchdowns in the game, late in the third, late in the fourth. Overall, we were shut down. Carolina played that bend but don't break defense, especially through the air. Shut down our run completely. It was just an awful game, man. Awful game. I'm not calling for Goff's head. I'm not calling for Aaron Glenn's head. I'm not calling anybody a bust. I'm not saying Malcolm Rodriguez is terrible. Aiden Hutchinson is bad. None of that. You just got their asses kicked. This wasn't an SOL loss. This wasn't one of those games. They just never had a chance from the get-go. So how can you say it's SOL? Oh, because they had a chance to win and every team that needed to lose lost? Okay, you want to go that route? Good for you. I'm not going to go that route. They just got to smarten up, man. They got to smarten up and figure it out, man. Because now you got you're back home versus the 3-12 Bears. Bears are up and down all year. Put points on the board. Justin Fields has a good game. Has a bag. Who knows what's going on there? They don't play defense. The Bears. They pretty much put it all on Justin Fields to take care of everything. And we have a problem with stopping these running quarterbacks. So you're at home. You have a chance. Now you got to win out, Detroit Lions. You have to win out or it's done. You have to win out or it's done. And then you need help from Seattle, Washington, Giants. There's another team in there or something like that. Some teams need to lose. Now you put yourself in a predicament. This is a predicament that you put yourself in. So you have to win this Bears game. You have to win this Bear game and worry about the damn Lambeau game when the Lambeau game shows up, when the Lambeau game comes, because it's not here yet. You got Chicago on the ticket. You got Chicago on the ticket, and you need to beat them at home. You got one more home game for the season, and then just take care of business at home. So it was a rough one, guys. Offensively, defensively, rough game. We got to put this game to bed. You got to look what the hell you guys did wrong here. How you got bullied so bad in the run against, and how you couldn't run the football. You got to run the ball, man. You can't put this game on just your quarterback to win it. You just can't. This team's not built like that. This team is not built for Goff to put the game on his back. Put this team on his back. It's not. And that's not a shot at him. It's not a shot, man. You got to play some good defense. You got to be able to run the football. You got to let Goff do his thing down the field. You can't put it all on one guy. We don't have that type of offense. We don't. And we don't have that type of defense either, where we can let guys just run all over us, that teams run all over us. It's got to be figured out quicker than that. That's it, guys. We got our asses kicked. 37-23. Beat up completely. Could have been worse. But that was a bad game. Put it to bed. You got the Chicago Bears at home. It's a division game. Let's go. You got to win. You're still in the playoffs. The playoff hopes are still alive. You're not in the playoffs. The hopes are alive. But now we need a lot of help. But that's it, guys. Thanks for the video. This is a long one. I appreciate the viewing. I appreciate you guys coming in and watching the vid. So hit the subscribe button in the bottom right. Hit that notification bell. Get on my videos and like, comment, share this out. An ass kicking in Carolina. Let's go win that next one, guys. One pride, go Lions. Boom.